So many of you watching this video will be interested in the whole terrain and realm of no fap and no fapping, not watching pornography, drawing yourself away from that experience. And also people watching this video, they'll have seen the description of the title to do with semen retention, and also how you can begin to practice this lovingly and consciously in the context of a relationship or an intimate relationship. Any kind of sexual relationship you're having with somebody else, really. So this is a fascinating ground for us to go into and explore. So a little bit about me. I'm a yoga teacher. I've been practicing yoga and meditation for over 20 years now, and over many of those years I've had sexual partners. My current partner, we've been together for 3 years, and one of the things that I'm really experimenting a lot with at the moment is how to feel into that experience of having regular sexual intimacy, what we call sacred practice, and maybe we'll get onto that a little bit, why we decided to call it our sacred practice, but really begin to explore having those sexual intimacy regularly, but never physically ejaculating as a guy. And this is an amazing territory to go into, fascinating and liberating, and so much can begin to happen for us energetically when we do this. Because I think that for me, and I'm sure this is probably true for a lot of the guys watching this video, there's an assumption that somehow that the pleasure of sex, the sense of the kind of the release, comes through the physical ejaculation, as it were. A sense of that's where the ultimate kind of release and the pleasure comes from. Now, to go into a little bit about the yogic tradition and how the yogic tradition sees semen retention, it's not only to do with just retaining the semen, the physical semen, but it's also to do with having a close observation to what happens to your energy levels. Now, maybe some of you already know this or are involved with the whole no fapping world, etc., and just in terms of your own experience, but when you ejaculate as a man, there is that depression of energy, that falling down of energy. But if you're having sexual intimacy and you come to the point where you're having a kind of an internal, almost an eternal orgasmic experience, an energy experience, but without the ejaculation, then it opens up a whole new territory for you. So one of the classical ways of talking about the semen retention in the yogic tradition is retaining the Bindu. Retaining the Bindu. So the Bindu means something like point, but what it's really pointing towards is that sense of what the emergence of the creative energy through the cosmic explosions of life. You imagine almost like a kind of the emergence of a star. An explosion of energy. But these explosions do not need to be anything like violent shudders. They don't have to be like that. They can be quite subtle, and you can begin to feel them. So the yogis talk about it in terms of retaining the Bindu. So the Bindu is the cosmic life force, going right back to the source of creation. So in the yogic point of view, the whole macrocosm, everything is contained within the human being. The macrocosm is mirrored within you. You have everything within yourself, and this is what the yogis and the yoginis discovered in the past, that you have the whole universe within you. So retaining the Bindu means retaining and cherishing and nurturing your own life force energy within you. Because we know on the physical level there's so much contained within the semen. The semen can create another form of life, can't it? There's a very potent psychic energy that you're beginning to work with. So a little bit about what it feels like and how to orientate yourself and almost negotiate it with your partner. So if you're regularly having sex but not ejaculating as a man, then if you're doing it in a kind of a tantra way, rather than necessarily from a point of view of just nervousness or these things, it's good, of course, to make it very conscious with your partner why you're choosing to do that. So saying to your partner, your loved one, your sexual partner, in a very lovingly kind of way, I'm deciding not to climax in the sense of a physical external orgasm, because I'm trying to work with the energy within me, and I can feel these senses of bliss begin to emerge when I just hold the energy within you. but try and make your partner feel that you're completely, as it were, into them. It's not a lack of love or a lack of attraction necessarily that's causing you to not want to physically ejaculate, but making it very conscious with your partner that you want to retain the semen, you want to retain the bindu, because you know that's where all of the energy, where there's so much energy there to begin to feel and play with. So making it a very conscious thing that you're doing with your partner. So not just having sex with someone and not even mentioning it, because if you don't mention it, they may feel that they're kind of rejected, or she couldn't bring you to the climax, and what does she need to do to bring you to that climax, as it were. Okay, so just a little bit about what it feels like. So when you're first having sex with your partner and not physically ejaculating, it might feel a little bit like you want to release in some way, but you're holding back, and it can be a bit of a training ground. It can take a few times before you really start to feel the nectar begin to emerge within your practice. So you'll feel this energy, and for me often, you feel that energy coming up from what's called the lower chakras, the lower parts of your energy body, the sacral chakra, and the Muladhara root chakra as well, and you can feel it begin to draw up into the navel center. Now your navel center is a mystical alchemical ground. There's so much going on in the navel center around the belly, and you can begin to draw this energy up as you're having sex with your partner. It's a blissful experience. It's not some sort of dry academic intellectual sort of experience. There is a bliss. There can be a bliss within the practice, and so much can begin to happen as you feel the energy rising up within you. And I can guarantee you can I think everyone could probably get to the point where they're enjoying sex immensely, but they have no urge for physical ejaculation. In fact, you can get to the point where you can just, as it were, go on and on and on and on with your partner, and she may be having orgasms, physical orgasms, in a very, very deep way, and you, as a guy, it's amazing because you just feel like you could just go on and on and on and on. Now it's important to remember that you could, as it were, kind of, the yogis would say, the swamis and teachers would say, it's careful not to abuse that. If you get to the point, you can just keep on having this sexual intercourse without any need to physically ejaculate. That can bring a lot of physical pleasure to your partner, so do it in a mindful way. But it's an interesting experience for a guy to begin to feel into the sense of having the sexual intimacy, but without the needing of the physical orgasm, and beginning to have those bliss experiences within. When you're building up what's called the ojas, or the psychic potency within yourself, you're drawing the energy up through the chakras to help it circulate and awaken your emotional centers and your psychic centers as well. So that's a little bit about how to experience the sense of having sex with your partner whilst retaining the bindu, as it were, and not physically ejaculating. Just a couple other techniques to do if you're not familiar with them. So the traditional way of doing Mula Bandha root lock is for a man just to draw up the perineum, the bandha muscle between the anus and sexual organs. That's the traditional way to do it. Or you can also, if you want, just contract the anus and perineum and sexual organs all at the same time if you want to work with it that way, but it's nice to work on a subtle level, one at a time. So classical Mula Bandha root lock is just contracting the perineum, beginning to activate that center, which you can just do in meditation as well by just holding your awareness on it. So the second technique I want to offer quickly is called Vidroli Mudra, which means contracting the urethra, the channel through which you do a wee. So just contracting that muscle as well is a very, very powerful and potent technique to begin to draw up the energy, to circulate it, to free that psychic energy, or just to channel and align that psychic energy that you have within you, so that it will help to power you through your process of spiritual unfoldment and your experience of personal depth awareness and personal development. If you're really interested in these things, I have many online courses on Kundalini Yoga. Also, these things, working with the psychic energy, will also help your practice of things like psychic awareness or clairvoyance or out-of-body experiences, lucid dreaming. So do check out my website, soulremember.com. I'll put a few links down below to some of the other courses that you might want to check out.